Going to call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Williston City Council. It is Tuesday, September the 5th, 6 p.m. And I will, at this time, ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Goodman,
I'm here.
Council President Jones,
Here.
Vice President Robinson,
Here.
Councilmember Cox,
Here.
Councilmember Bullock,
Here.
Councilmember Hines,
Here.
City Manager Terry Bavard,
Here.
Attorney Kirsten Ballou,
Here.
City Clerk Latricia Wright, I am here, and all other staff.
Thank you all for coming tonight. If you will, please stand for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance by the mayor.
Father, we come here tonight as a group of people representing the citizens of this municipality that we're in. Lord, I ask you to be with these council people as they make important decisions for the entire city. Give them your guidance. Give them the wisdom from your word. And Lord, I just ask that you be with our fire chief who has had some medical issues and is not well today. And I ask you to be with the police department, protect them in all the things that they have to do. And Lord, I just ask your blessing on our country. We're going through trying times, but you tell us that there will be valleys, but there will be mountains afterwards. And we thank you for that in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 1 on our agenda is the additions, deletions, changes, or approval of the agenda. I have no corrections or changes. Does anyone else? Not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as printed.
Make a motion, we accept the agenda.
Second it.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, we have one of our favorite things, which is the Mayor's Student of the Month.
Hayden Smith, are you here? I'm laying eyeballs on you, young man. Why don't you come up here and join me? Oh, come on. You can bring Mom with you if you need security. I have something for you that you're going to want. Never lose that shyness. It's beautiful to watch. So we have before us Hayden Smith. He's the second grade in Joyce Bullock Elementary School. He was nominated by Stephanie Richardson and Dawn Stewart, who made the following comments. Do you know those two people? Oh, good. So strangers didn't recommend you. Okay, that's a good thing. Joyce Bullock Elementary School Mayor Student of the Month is Hayden Smith. Hayden is such a great leader in class. He is always helping other students when they need it. Do you try to help people when you see they need help? You're a good person, Hayden. Without being asked and without hesitation, he is a friend to everyone. Hayden is also such a hard worker in class, always on task and doing his very best at everything we do. Congratulations, Hayden. I have a couple of things I would like to give you, if I may. This is the important one. I'm going to read it. Can you switch sides with your mama? I don't bite much. Outstanding Student Award, presented by Charles Goodman, Mayor, City of Williston, Florida. This is to certify that Hayden Smith is awarded this certificate for academic excellence, leadership, citizenship, and attendance at Joyce Bullock Elementary School. Given this 5th day of September 2023, Charles Goodman, Mayor of Williston. This is for you. Congratulations, young man. However, this is for you and I to share, or maybe not. Domino's Pizza, in recognition of your outstanding achievement, wants to give you one free 14-inch, 2-topping pizza. And this is for you. You can share it with whoever you want except me. This man right there, he wants to take your picture and turn it, hold, you can put that behind it. There you go. I'm going to get in close to you now. Thank you, Hayden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, at this time is our first opportunity for public participation, and that is for anyone to speak to us tonight for up to 5 minutes about anything that is not on the agenda. There is another opportunity at the end of this agenda, but if you'd like to speak at this time, the podium is open. Okay, seeing none.
If anyone on the Ring Central meeting would like to speak, unmute your mic and speak now. Nothing heard.
Thank you. All right, we will move then to item number 4, which is consent agenda, which consists of the council meeting minutes of August the 22nd. If there are no corrections, I would entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 5 is updates, and we will start with the city manager, Mr. Terry Brevard.
Thank you, Madam President. So just the other thing I'll bring up, just to kind of let you know, is that, of course, last week was the hurricane. And, of course, as we all know, we got very fortunate in dodging that hurricane. Some other people weren't so fortunate in the state of Florida. I can tell you that I was very impressed with the staff. They did an excellent job both throughout the city. There's not one department in the city that wasn't prepared and ready to go and wasn't out there in the streets hitting the ground hot and heavy when it happened. And because of that, I can tell you that the biggest struggle we had that day was power outages. And I can tell you by 4 o'clock at the end of that day, nobody in the city of Williston was out of power. Everybody had power. And very few people could say that that were affected by the storm. So good job to everybody. And I just wanted to make a public comment on that. And everything else, I'll wait till the end. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, I'll ask anyone from the staff if they have anything they would like to add as an update or an announcement at this time. Any staff member? Okay, I'll start to my far right. Ms. Hines, do you have anything at this time?
Nothing.
Mr. Bullock? Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I do. Testing, yes. First, I would like to thank the city for their kindness and graciousness in helping Williston Animal Group during this hurricane, where we had animals at risk in a very questionable facility that, if the hurricane had hit, would have been loss of life without a question. Fortunately, as the city manager pointed out, we dodged that bullet, but I want to thank the city for being willing to help a nonprofit that has done so much for the city by allowing them to temporarily, for just a day or so, house their animals in the shelter that we built to rescue animals. The other thing that I would like to talk about is I'm not going to talk about it because I would be too upset right now. So I will forego that second statement and just thank the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Robinson, do you have anything? Mr. Cox? Kirsten? I didn't forget you this time. Ms. Wright? All right. And I just want to echo the same thing that's been echoed already. The city staff was amazing. All of them, whether their department needed something immediately or not, they were in there working with everyone else that did. And I will say the two new things we did was we had two ladies answering the phone that answered them constantly. I heard from the citizens that was wonderful because not only could they get the help they needed, it was reassuring to know that they were there. And I want to, like I say, congratulate road department, electric department, utility department, all around. You did a great job. Everybody was in good humor. And just obviously police and fire, airport, everybody was there and everybody was in tune with whatever was going on and willing to help anybody who needed our assistance. And that's all I have. Anybody else have anything at this time? If not, we will move to item 6, which is new business. Number A, excuse me, Resolution 2022-66, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, authorizing Human Resources to designate a full-time information technology technician for CalLink and move the current split position between natural gas and information technology to full-time in the natural gas division and provide for an effective date. Mr. Mills.
Yes, this is the position we discussed a couple months ago now almost. It will take Chip out of my department and take him to the gas department full-time, and I believe he's going to work mostly gas compliance and then give me a full-time IT tech.
Okay, we do have, I would only give 1 month of the salary in this year's budget.
Correct.
The rest of it is already budgeted
Correct.
as it's been stated in our packet. It's already stated for next year in the budget. And you see that the job description that's been created by HR that's also in our packet. I'm trying to find the page number. Not doing so hot.
And
with that.
Mr. Bloom assured me we had funds to cover it for this budget.
Yes.
No problem.
I remember when we asked him that. Any questions for Mr. Mills or for the city manager or anyone else for that matter regarding this, adding this new position for the 1 month period, well, forever, adding it as two full positions instead of one half that's split. But mostly, as we'd already done it in the budget upcoming, but for the extra month this year. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. The question I have is to address HR and the city manager and this council. It would seem to me that hiring positions is under the preview of the city manager, and I can't help but wonder why the council is involved in hiring when in everything I know of, this should have been done by the city manager with attention from HR for sure, but I don't understand why the council has now moved into the business of hiring individual people within the city. Thank you.
So the only thing I could tell you is that when this originally was discussed, there was no staffing plan for this position. So I would love to be able to have the opportunity just to add staff, because I'd probably add several. In this particular case, we came to the council because there was a need for it, and it was going to create an additional member that was going to have to be paid out of last year's budget that was not on my staff. I didn't have the position for it. So it had to be literally created in it. So it was just my staff plus one. And so we needed the board's approval to do that. And the reality is that this would have been done I guess maybe 6 weeks ago could have been. We weren't really ready. You know, it's our fault. Weren't ready to bring it for the council. And it's kind of late getting here, but I don't know how I bring somebody on board when I currently don't have the staffing plan to do it or the money.
And my answer, just to chime in, is because it's a brand-new position, and because there wasn't money for it, and because we had to get it approved for that reason. I would also say it's not hiring someone specifically. It is strictly adding a new job vacancy. Because we don't have anybody in mind that they're getting ready to hire, or at least I don't. If there is, I don't know about it. So it's not like we're hiring someone. We're giving him permission to add a new position, a new full-time position. Actually, 2 full-time positions, because we had 2 part-times before. So that's the reason I believe it needed to be here. So that's just the way I feel about it. I don't know about anybody else.
I agree.
Any other questions for anyone regarding this? If not, it's Resolution 2023-66, and I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve Resolution 2023-66.
I'll second it.
Have a motion, any second? Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item B is Resolution 2023-68, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, authorizing and ratifying the amendment to Foles Walker LLC City Attorney Contract, providing for the execution of an amended agreement for legal services with Foles Walker LLC and providing an effective date. City Manager Brevard.
Madam President, this is a resolution regarding the request that I believe Mr. Walker came before you at the last budget meeting and discussed as well. We've talked with staff. I'm happy to answer any questions. I do have one additional amendment to the contract. It was, Terry and I were discussing today regarding the professional liability insurance provision. Currently, it states $1 million in the aggregate. We did recently in the last year increase our professional liability insurance, so it'll be $1 million per occurrence and $2 million in the aggregate. So that would be the additional request that I would make to amend this agreement. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but this is to bring the retainer agreement closer in line with the services that are being provided month to month.
Got it. Okay, any questions for either the city manager or the city attorney? Any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion for Resolution 2023-68.
I make a motion that we approve 2023-68 resolution.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from anyone? Trying to figure out why the phone is ringing when it should be turned off. Interesting. No, it's not. It's that one right in my... Okay, interesting. I guess she'll... got it. All right, so I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Item C, Resolution 2023-69, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving the amendment to the State of Florida Department of Transportation Public Transportation Grant Agreement for financial project number 442505-3-94-23 regarding the Williston Municipal Airport, design and construction of building site, infrastructure for new general aviation terminal, authorizing appropriate parties to sign any documents required and execute such amendment on behalf of the City of Williston, and providing an effective date. Airport Manager Stiegel.
Yes, ma'am. This amendment is to the terminal building PTGA. What it's for is basically with FDOT's approval, we're taking money from one project later. It's actually coming out of next year's project money and pulling it into the terminal building to support that project. The reason we're doing this is because the bids came back at a little more than we thought it was. And we're trying to, essentially rob Peter to pay Paul from one grant fund to another grant fund. There's still not going to be any funds taken from the city for this project. It's just a matter of moving funds from one project in the future to the current project.
Okay, so it's not the 10% grant match. It's additional dollars.
So since we're ready, we don't pay the 10%,
Okay,
according to FDOT.
terrific.
But it doesn't have to do with that. We're taking from our hangar project, our T-hangar project,
Right.
and moving it into the terminal building project.
Okay. Got it. Any other questions for the airport manager?
And then when do you expect to get the money back for the T-hangars? So we can get that back online after the terminal?
That's a great question. It may not be this year. It may not be in the next 1 or 2 years. We have talked to FDOT about it, and what we're going to probably do is in the next 3 to 4 years change one of our upcoming projects to a hangar project instead of one of the other projects that we had listed. For instance, we had a wildlife fence because we were kind of running slim on projects. We were going to put a wildlife fence up around the runways. But to do that, we would have to have a survey and then, the fencing project itself. But instead of doing that, we would probably take that money that's already allocated for that project and put it back into the T-hangar project. But that would take place over the course of a couple of years.
Okay.
Okay, so it would move the T-hangar project out a few years.
Yes and no. So the plan for the T-hangar project with the money that will be remaining is to build a box hangar that's about 60 by 60.
Okay, so build a bulk hangar instead.
Yes, ma'am, but it's going to be on T-hangar row. So kind of like you've all been out to the airport, the Charlie Building T-hangars has the one large box hangar on the end. It's going to be the same principle as that. So Echo Building will start off with a box hangar on the end of it, and then taper down T-hangars that are nested like the rest of the T-hangar building. So it'll almost match Charlie Building exactly.
Okay,
I have a question.
Sure.
So the grants that you have for the projects?
Yes,
not
ma'am.
this one, is it specified for that particular project?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
if so, how do you move money from that project to this project if this project has nothing to do with that particular grant?
That's a great question. FDOT allows us and manages a lot of that stuff. So we had to go to FDOT Aviation District 2 and ask their project manager, like, hey, the bid came in a lot higher than we were expecting for the terminal building. Is it possible to use these funds for this? And they've done it with a large number of projects in different airports all over the state. And so it was how much money do you need? We need X amount to make sure that we're covered, and whatever's the remainder, we'll slide it back into the hangar project, and we'll go from there. So we got that signed off by FDOT. They generate this document, send it to the council for council's approval.
Okay, so no ability to be penalized for,
No, ma'am. This is all with their approval.
okay.
great question. Anybody else?
One other question.
Yes, sir.
So with the building of our new terminal, where do we see the airport in 5 years with this new building?
That's a good question. And I've actually got a meeting about that tomorrow. But our intent with the new terminal building is to be a little bit more of a draw to an executive crowd. We've had several new private hangars go up and a couple of new corporate hangars go up at the airport in the past couple of years. So with the new terminal building being a little bit higher, I don't want to say class, but class, than our current terminal building, it'll draw more of a crowd. And when people walk in and they see a nice facility and they see a very well-maintained airport, which we have, but right now our terminal building is rather small and cramped. But when they walk in and see an executive feel in a very well-maintained area, they're like, I want to build here. Like, what? Let's talk about that. Let's sit down and let's have a conversation. So we're going to continue to develop the aviation side. Mostly with corporate hangars, we're going to try to expand on Alpha Taxiway, bring in a couple more jet hangars here and there, corporate. And then tomorrow we have a meeting about expanding the industrial park. So that would be my primary concern, would be expanding the industrial park over the aviation side, just because land leases are easier to maintain than, a lot of aviation leases and hangars and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Okay, so this is Resolution 2023-69. Would entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve Resolution 2023-69.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item D is discussion with possible action of Peso property located at 5 Northeast Main Street. And Ms. Jones is not here.
She's
So
not.
I will ask the city manager and Ms. Kirsten Ballou.
Yeah, so I'm going to lead off, and I'm going to walk you through how we got to where we're at today, and then Kirsten, at some point, will step in and talk to you about the law and what some of our possible actions are as we move forward. So if you're not aware, then, on August the 29th, we had a building collapse during the storm, here in Williston. So, and that building is 5 Northeast Main Street. It's across the street over here. It's a 2-story building. It is a building that is already under code enforcement and has been such since June the 26th of 2023. So this will, it's already in code enforcement for some other issues about cleanup and stuff like that. The building, the back of the building collapsed to the point that it's in, of course, my opinion, that it's unsalvageable. Not only that, it's probably a hazard, or is a hazard to the public and safety of the citizens, of course, and the people in the surrounding buildings. With that, we had our building inspectors come out and inspect the building. They've determined that the building is damaged beyond repair. It is a safety hazard to the public. You should have that in your packet. If you don't, I apologize, but I thought you did. And then you should have an engineering study from an engineering company that looked at least the pictures of it and made a determination for Wright Pierce, who is our engineering consultants for the city. They also determined that the building is beyond repair and is a safety hazard to the public and needs to be raised, demolished. Well, we reached out to the owner of the property. The individual owning the property is a guy by the name of Michael Peso. Laura Jones spoke to him here from the city hall. So basically, the conversation she had with him was that the initial conversation was do what you want, that he's not doesn't care what we do, and so it would be up to the city to take action against the building. I requested that a document be signed and attested to, releasing us from liability, and he refused to cooperate at any point further. So he has cut off conversation with us. He's not speaking to us, and we've had no further conversation with Mr. Peso in reference to the building. So tonight here, we wanted to bring you some of our options and let you talk about it, figure out which way we want to go. I could tell you on your original forms you had here, there was some discussion about some sort of FEMA interaction. There will not be none, at least not now, at least not through the city. And so that was for city damaged buildings, and so at this point, Williston doesn't have any. So the assessment team for the damage for the city, from the state will not look at the building because it's a private building. And then there are some things that we have to do to walk ourselves through this process to make sure that we make all the right steps and do everything the right way. I can tell you the most recent conversation I've had, unfortunately, with third-party individuals, most recently as less than 15, 30 minutes before this meeting started, is that Mr. Peso has no intentions of cleaning up the building, fixing the building, raising the building, or doing anything with the building. And that the city just has to do what we have to do. But I will remind you that it's third party, because, like I said, we've had a number of conversations with him. With that, I've asked Kirsten, our city attorney, to look at some possible options that we have, and what can we do in sense of maybe rehabilitating or mitigating the problem with this building that has since collapsed in the city.
Okay, so a little bit of background from your legal perspective. The City of Williston has a hazardous building section of our land development code.
She rolls, can you let her in? Thank you.
But it does not provide for action aside from regular code enforcement action against the building, levying fines, putting on a lien, foreclosing on the property, and the property stays the way it is until that happens. Obviously, this situation, that's not really an option, or at least not a great option, because of the danger that it poses to the public health and safety. So, given that information, went on a deep dive exploration to see what other options we potentially have. We explored the option of bringing a suit against Mr. Peso for nuisance. A couple issues with that. Number one is that it's costly, that it's not going to be covered by your insurance as a legal proceeding, and that at the end of it, you can get a money judgment, but it doesn't fix the property. So the property remains as it is unless Mr. Peso takes action. So those are the real big flaws. The most promising course of action that we found is under Chapter 162, which is your regular code enforcement statute. I believe Terry provided you with a couple of sections. So essentially, 3 sections read together. I believe you have 2 of them, but all 3 read together is, so Section 162.06 addresses if there is a building that poses a danger to the public health and safety and or welfare, the code inspector shall make a reasonable effort to notify the violator and may immediately notify the code enforcement board and request a hearing. So as you know, if you're not familiar, generally speaking, you have to reach out to the property owner. We see if there's a way that we can address the situation, which we have done, to see if Mr. Peso would be willing to address these concerns.
Do we have any of that in writing, though?
I'm not sure.
I think that's probably noted here, too.
Well, we have, you mean it from him? Mr.
Have
Pace?
we given him anything in writing, asking him to do it?
No, he has not received anything yet, to my understanding, as far as like a citation or code enforcement, nothing like that. So that would be our first step in the process of moving forward from tonight.
So under 162.06, you can you don't have to have any kind of waiting period. You can go immediately to the hearing. So typically you have to wait for a private citizen to make a complaint. Code enforcement goes out and goes through the whole process. Can be quite lengthy. Because it's a danger to the public safety and welfare, obviously everyone's aware of it at this point. We can sort of skip those steps. Under the next section is 162.07, which I don't believe you have in front of you, so I'll read the relevant provision, which is subsection 4, and I can provide this to all of you after the meeting. It says the order of code enforcement may include a notice that it must be complied with by a specified date and that a fine may be imposed, and under the conditions specified in 162.09, which we'll get to in a minute, the cost of repairs may be included with the fine if the order is not complied with by said date. So if you then go to 162.09, subsection 1, this talks about the fact that because this is a property that is a violation as described in 162.04, so it's a danger to the public health and safety, the code enforcement board may refer to you, or they have to refer to you. You can make a decision on whether or not you want to pay for the repairs, repair the building, and then levy that as a lien against the property, and then foreclose as if we would foreclose against a code enforcement lien. So the way that would work is we would get an assessment from an engineer, your building official, what is the absolute bare minimum that needs to be done in order to make that building compliant with building code. Now, that may be that the building needs to be taken down. It could be. What we need to do is make sure that we have that in writing from an engineer that says that is the least amount of repair that can be done to make this a safe building. So we have to act in good faith if we're going to be acting under this. We can't just tear down the building and say, that's it, you're done, if you don't have to tear down the building. So we'll get that analysis. The next thing that we do is we're going to issue a notice of code enforcement violation. We're going to issue it under Chapter 48, which is your hazardous buildings section of your land development code. And we are required to give Mr. Peso 10 days to fix the problem. If he does not comply within those 10 days, on that 11th day, I would suggest that we hold a special meeting of the Code Enforcement Board for a hearing for him, which will be listed in the notice. He'll have an opportunity, if he so chooses, to come in to make his case. We can then levy a fine. At that point, the Code Enforcement Board will send a recommendation, an official recommendation to you that you inspect whether or not you want to make the repairs to the property and then lien them against the property, at which point that will come back to the commission. I don't know if that will be in our next meeting or if we'll need a special meeting. We'll sort of address that as it comes up. And then you all will make the determination on whether or not we're going to make the repairs. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that this will constitute an emergency, so your procurement policy will not need to follow because it is so dangerous. The other thing to think about is that when we do this, if we decide to go this route, that the repairs will be made. The lien on the property, so the fines that are charged to him for code enforcement and the cost of the repairs will be what our lien is for. We have to record that lien. We have to wait statutorily a minimum of 3 months before we can foreclose on the property. At that point, we can proceed with the foreclosure process. So that would be pretty much how it works on a step-by-step basis. I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
So much for speedy.
Believe it or not, this is the speediest option.
I mean, like, what if it fell into the road? It's still the same provision.
We can make the repairs before 3 months, but we can't foreclose on the
Okay.
property
Thank you for that clarification.
for 3
So
months.
we can-
So you have to carry the cost
We
for
can
3
clear,
months.
we can clear the
until you-
space
Correct,
and make it safe. You just can't foreclose for 3 months.
correct.
Not a problem. I just want to make it safe.
Yes.
Hold on one second. Any questions from the council on what she's just said? Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Manager, you stated that there were code violations back to 2006, is that correct?
No, the last one was, or the most recent one, it was June the 26th of 2023. So
2023?
just this year, if I'm correct on that.
And there were no other liens or code violations on the property prior to that?
None initiated by the city, no. Mm-mm. Could there have been?
But those are still ongoing.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
He never,
I'm just asking a question.
yeah, I mean, he
Yeah.
never brought those up, so those fines still exist.
That's what I'm trying to find out. Are there fines currently on the building?
There should be fines accumulating on the building. What that fine is right now, I don't know. Yes, Donald?
So I spoke to Laura about this, and one of the interesting parts is that the reason why the fines didn't start earlier, this was reported many years ago, but because there was a foreclosure on the pawn shop, on advice from council, they didn't think it was a good look to do properties all across the board. So they needed to do one, and then they focused on the other. So this was reported to the Board of Adjustments like 2-3 years ago as far as the back wall, but on advice from the attorneys, they didn't move ahead on it until the one building was taken care of, and I believe it's like $50 a day.
It might be a little bit more than that, but it's probably somewhere around that amount that's currently accrued.
From what point? Can nobody tell us?
June 26th of 2023.
Just June. That's the
Yeah, just
first
now, just now.
fine
And-
on this particular building is June 26th,
Yes.
2023.
Yes,
Is that
and-
accurate?
That is accurate, and
Okay.
according to my magical watch from Laura Jones, who's listening, there's currently no fines at this point that have been levied on the building yet.
There are currently no fines
Right.
that have been levied.
Other than
Right.
these.
Other than,
These, no fines have been levied yet.
yeah, that I know of.
He'll clarify that.
They have a period of time to come into compliance before the fines
Like
begin.
30 days.
You have to give a reasonable amount of time, so once they
So
come
no
in for the
fines
hearing.
have been levied.
I'm not sure, I can't,
I don't,
I can't tell you the answer to that.
at this point, I don't think that that's the point. I mean, it's fallen
Well,
down.
it's the question.
It is definitely the question.
Thank you.
But I don't, Mr. Penny, you will state your name and your city of residence for that.
There is when they did that bank and remodeled it a long time ago, they opened it up to the other building. So when y'all go in there to take that building out, is that not going to be like a domino effect? Now, with that building on the left, which is the old bank, and it collapses, now is the city going to be liable for that?
Yeah.
If they did the cleanup?
We didn't make it fall down.
I was just asking.
So, that brings up another part of the statute that I do want to bring your attention to, because I know that the city, which I love, is always worried about our liability in things, and I appreciate that about you all. If you look at 16209, that first paragraph, you can go ahead and take a look, about middle of the way down,
In which one, I'm sorry?
16209.
Okay, sorry.
It says we have no liability as a result of our good faith efforts.
Yes, making such repairs does not create a continuing obligation on the part of the local government to make further repairs or to maintain the property, and does not create any liability against the local governing body for any damages to the property if such repairs were completed in good faith.
Doesn't that property have a different tax ID?
Do what?
On the partials. There are two different partial pieces of property.
We're not concerned about the bank at this point. We're only concerned about the one that's falling down.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if it's a different property,
That's good. We're not concerned about that
and
one.
if it does happen, the city's not going to be liable with it being a different parcel number?
It says right here we're not.
Okay.
I understand Mr. Mills has somebody online.
Ms. Jones is online.
Okay, perfect. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you. I just wanted to be clear about the history that the mayor was asking about. So this property has been under code enforcement in the past. The property owner did make repairs that were requested and paid fines that were levied. Now, the last code enforcement meeting that Mr. Brevard was discussing in June, he did get some fines levied against him. So they're $25 a day and the $250 administrative fee. But other than that, there is no lien against this property right now.
Right. Yep. I think we knew there wasn't a lien. We just weren't
Yeah.
sure if there were any fines.
So my question would be is then he's a repeat offender, and then you're telling me that he's had at least two. Is that correct, Laura?
Yes, he's a repeat offender, which is why they were able to levy fines immediately after just one hearing instead of having to wait.
Thank you.
Good point. Thank you very much. Mr. Fuller, if you'll please state your name and your city of residence.
Albert Fuller, City of Williston. Just wanted to ask the question, to what degree is the city responsible for making sure that the one that the action is against is mentally able to understand what's being done? And that should be a consideration.
I actually have that note written here myself, in that I wondered, and I may look at Mr. Schmidt and ask this question, if there is some representative from the family. I know there is a daughter. I don't know whether she is helping him with his affairs at this point, or they are not communicating. I do want to make sure that somebody understands, that they understand what is going on.
As far as the city's responsibility in this case, unless there's a guardianship action or some other protective proceeding against this individual, it is considered that he understands for code enforcement purposes. It seems that he's engaged at least somewhat with city staff regarding this issue, has represented that he understands that there's been damage, has represented that he does not plan to take action regarding the damage. If and when this results in a foreclosure, the court's responsibility is to ensure that every party has competency in order to participate. If the court finds that he does not have competency at that point, they will address that, but it's not the city's responsibility to ensure.
Wonderful. That makes me feel a little better. Good question. Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Schmidt, if you would, come to the podium and state your name and city of residence.
My name is Bob Schmidt, live in the city. First thing, this is strictly my saying, nothing to do with any party on any level of anybody at all in the town. So with that, as the first premise, the question I have is, at what point can you foreclose if you have no monetary lien against the building? They used to have a percentage of assessed property value. Are we now changing that regulation?
You can foreclose on a code enforcement lien under statute, so it's a different statutory process that is very, very different from the way that you would foreclose mortgage-wise or on any other kind of money damage.
Yeah, the others we had were actually code enforcement that you could actually do something about that were not necessarily completely hazardous to the public. This is a totally different story altogether.
I partially disagree with that. The pawn shop is basically, since I've been there quite a bit the last year and a half, it's really in the same condition as the two-story building. The difference is the 2 stories versus 1 story. But as far, the whole ceiling fell down in one area of it. The whole back area is starting to collapse,
Right.
et cetera.
Yeah.
The front part, somebody built a
That's
fire
why it's
inside the
ours
building.
now.
Pardon?
That's why we had code enforcement on it and
Yeah.
why we have foreclosed
But what
on
I'm
it.
saying is, it's essentially, in essence, the same configuration as that building is. They both were dangerous.
But the other one sort of imploded on itself. This one is on other people's property and a threat to the 4-lane highway and the sidewalk for the public.
No, I understand.
The other one kind of imploded on itself and was contained within the building.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, so
I'm
that,
just saying they're both,
to me, that's
they're
a
both
whole lot
health
different.
hazards, safety hazards. Because neither one's hard to break into.
And one went through the process, a lengthy process, and the other one is, it has to be done as soon as possible, in my opinion. I think all of our opinions.
So the question I have on the liability issue, is that strictly to keep the city out and put liability on him? And if you have a third party come in to do they're all talking about renovation, but then if you read the paperwork, it says it's basically beyond
Now, they're
renovation.
talking, the repair she's talking about is demolition.
Okay, well, it's just misleading terminology to me, that's all, I'm sorry for that.
It's more of a remedy than a repair. It remedies the situation.
As far as the structure, the 2-story building actually has a 1-story building between it and the bank structure.
Right.
The bank also has no wall on the north side of it. It's all been opened up. And the other issue with the bank is actually an historical building, because I've seen the documentation to verify it. I couldn't find it looking on Google this time, but I have found it before. But I'm not sure what type of situation that implies because of the regulations on historic buildings. You're only allowed to remodel inside, but you can't really change the outside structure, so I don't know. All I know is it's a hard dilemma. I do know that much about it.
At this time, we're not addressing the historic building on the corner.
No, I know. Well, it was brought up. That's the reason I even
Right.
mentioned it. And I do not know if the two-story building, the wall on the north side actually butts against the first single-story building next to it, or if they're interjoined, either.
Yeah. We would have to get an engineer to look at that before, or whoever decides to knock it down would have to get an engineer to look at that.
So
I mean, we've got a ways to go before we're there, but we're obviously trying to move as fast as we can because of the public health and safety.
All right. Any questions for me, since I'm here?
I would just say if there's anybody else we need to be talking to that does have, who can assist him, family member or a power of attorney or whatever, let us know.
As of right now, I'd say no.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I actually tried to find his daughter online, trying to find her somewhere, and I could not. Just trying to locate
The
her.
one's in Jacksonville, the other one's in
Yeah.
Boynton Beach.
Thank you for trying to assist him.
I just attempt to keep peace the best I can.
Yep.
That's all you can do.
I know you're trying. Thank you. Okay, so tell me how we should proceed.
At this time, no action is needed from you all unless you want to totally not go in that direction, you hate that idea, and you want me to try to come up with something else.
Sounds like the best alternative.
All right,
Everybody
we'll
agree?
be back with it.
Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you. Okay, so we are done with that item. Unless anybody else has comment? I'm assuming Ms. Jones does no further comment. All right, we're down to item number 7, which is public participation. I will ask one more time if anybody has anything they'd like to bring before this group. If so, you have up to 5 minutes to speak to us about anything at this point. If not, I will ask for final announcements from anyone.
I have an
Did you
announcement.
want to speak, Laura? No.
Okay? Ms. Latricia?
Just a reminder, September the 12th is the first budget hearing at 5:30.
September 12th, first public hearing. 5:30.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I know that there are 3 of us, I believe, going to Legislative Policy Committee meetings on September 8th, which is Friday of this week, to Orlando. We're just traveling for the day and back. There are some that are staying, but we are traveling there and back. So if you're looking for some of us, that's where we'll be. The other thing I would like to address, and the mayor brought this up, and I'm going to look this way because I know that we've talked about it, and I'll talk to you too if you want me to, or maybe the people that are on the board of WAG and the people that are on the board for the Wilson Community Animal Rescue. I know in the past we have met with their board. We, the city, have met with their board and talked to them about trying to get some kind of an interlocal agreement. That may not be the right word, but some sort of a reciprocating agreement with each other, and how much easier everything would be if that, and it would protect them and protect us if we could have that agreement. So I just want to put that back on staff's plate again to try to, let's meet with them again, let's call them again and try to get that done. So the next time a hurricane comes or they need to use our facility, that we have the mechanism and the policy they need to follow to get that done. That's just something that he brought up today that I think we need to finish. That's all I've got. Has anybody else got anything before we are through with the good of the cause here?
Well, I know we
had the storm and all get set back, but we did talk a couple meetings back about the golf cart, finding one of the zones that was the least amount of stuff and getting signage up. Where we at with that? Anything? I know we had a storm, all that, you know, I'm just still, I get asked every day about
No,
this.
that's
I know I do
fine.
too.
I actually get asked all the time too, so, it's no bother. So, yeah, we've been in contact, obviously, with, you know, our Walt Nichols is representative from Wright Pierce, the one's putting it together. You know, we have discussed with him about launching that program in a certain section of town, and he does want to redraw the maps and to something a little more palatable for us, and we're currently at that position of the map process. I think my biggest fear, to be honest with you, is I look out into a neighborhood and under its current situation, and I see a sea of golf cart signs that says, stop here, don't start, stop here, and all I see riding through the city is golf cart signs. So we're trying to leverage that in a way that, you know, we can make one whole street start, and have 2 signs, or 4 signs, and not literally 12. So that's my biggest struggle, to be honest with you. So,
And the same question I always ask, have we ordered signs yet?
we
Because
have
I don't want to
not.
be waiting on them.
We have not, because we haven't come up with an actual number that we're gonna need, so,
So make a stab at it
okay.
and get them ordered so that when he is ready, we're not saying, oh, I'm sorry, we gotta wait another 2 months for the signs. I mean,
know-
even if it's just 40 or 50,
Yep, I mean,
because you know we're gonna need that many.
Yeah, I know we had a meeting, we talked about it since our last meeting, and the question was going back and looking at the streets again. Walt assured us that we would be much happier with the current golf cart map. I just have not seen it yet.
Can we give him a
We can.
desired time frame?
About the next 2 weeks, right before the next city council meeting.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
We may make it an agenda item, just to have fun
I
with
think
it.
we should.
I will.
At least they will know that we're trying to get it done.
Yes, ma'am. We will put it on the agenda.
Anybody else for tonight? Oh, Ms. Patterson.
Just one more. I probably need to throw this out there to everybody. We did have our first day of open enrollment for benefits today, and it went very well. We have one more day tomorrow from 8:30 until 6:30. We just have a few more people at the airport, police, a few folks that are left over from utilities. But for the most part, we had a very successful open enrollment first day. I think everybody was very well informed with the packets that they had before they got started, and we should be finishing up pretty well by tomorrow. But like I said, we're starting at 8:30, going until 6:30. If there's folks that do not get in tomorrow, you can come by my office, bring your information to me, and we'll get you connected with the supplemental agents that we have, as well as our health and vision and dental.
Okay, good deal. Anybody else? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We will adjourn at 7 p.m.